This program features live coverage of an African safari and may include animal kills and carcasses. Viewer discretion is advised.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome to South Africa. The sun is now well up in the sky, and of course it is by far the most important source of energy for life on Earth, the sun. It's a beautiful morning here in Djuma Game Reserve, and we're going to be coming to you from many different locations across South Africa today, looking for all creatures, big and small. Now, I'm excited. The morning always holds so much opportunity. I hope you are excited as well. So jump on board, everyone. It's that time of day for your live bumble through the bush. Welcome aboard, everyone. It is always a pleasure to have you all on the back of my safari vehicle, especially on an absolutely glorious morning like this. There's still a little bit of mist in the air, not fog today, but it's definitely misty, and I just love that. My name is Lauren. I do have Davy on camera today, and we're sitting on quarantine, one of the best places to sit, look, listen, smell. Can always start to piece together what may have happened last night. The impalas are normally one of the few that will absolutely give it away, but they look rather relaxed. Actually, I'm going to change my mind. I think it is fog. Look at that. You can't see past that drainage. It's definitely fog. So, of course, this is your live safari. It's happening as you see it. You get to see everything, even the hiccups when your car breaks down. So you must talk to us. And how do you do that? Well, you use the hashtag WildEarth on Twitter. You can use @FC on the YouTube chat. Or you can head over to the WildEarth website, register, go to the live safari page and submit your questions there. But kids, if you're watching, please do talk to us. Your questions are very often the best. And you send your questions in via email, and the email address is kidsquestions@wildearth.tv. Now, this looks like a herd that has been sheepdog herded by that one male. Did you see him, Davy? That one big ram with the longest horns. He will be the dominant male that's got all of the females together, and he's waiting for them to come into estrus, and they will, one by one. And once they do, it's going to try and mate with as many of them as possible. And then the rutting season will commence. Look at him. Fleming Grimace, he's smelling. Are any of my ladies coming into estrus? I'm ready. Let the games begin. But if they're not in estrus, they will not mate with him. They will run, they will flee, they will make noises like that. What an incredible start. She's not in estrus. She's not interested. But he's trying. And all the females know that. They're all very aware of his behavior changing. They know that he can be aggressive, so they're keeping out of his way. But of course, biologically, when the females come into estrus, they will, of course, want to mate. They have to mate. They have to reproduce. This ram is causing chaos, and it's only 6:30 in the morning. Okay, let's see if... Oh, no, he's coming back. Is that him?
It's a female.
That's a female. They've all been herded together. That's exactly what he intends to do. He wants to herd all these females together. And it's called sheepdog herding, literally. He's trying to prevent any other male from getting access to his females. He's there, Dovey. You see him on the road. Wow, what a great start. I'm going to bumble towards the hyena den. I'm going to send you guys across to Ngala to say good morning.
Look at what we have got out in the open here. Some kuru. So those two females that you can see there. A very good morning and a warm welcome to And Beyond Ngala. I am Marcus Koza, and on camera I've got Mpo. So we are here with those kuru that looks like they are moving away from us. There was the last one. We'll try follow them up. Oh, there they are. One of them at least. So I'm not sure if you see this area. There are a bit of bushes, but it is quite an open area. So knowing that kuru will prefer mostly the thickets, so these kurus here are not as confident. So you can see them every time they walk into the open, they'll just run. They scan these sides more often than they should. Look at that one browsing high up there. And if you take a good look at that male, you can see that he is trying to feed, or he is feeding in fact, but just for the shortest of time. Then he'll just turn and look, scan the sides to see if there might be some predators maybe around this area here. Look at that one with the ox pecker on its attendant. Beautiful female kuru there. So Simone, if I got that correctly, you want to know if the females are the same size with the males. That is not always the case, Simone. So like this kuru, the male will be there maybe just for safety in numbers, but also to see if there are any of those females on heat. But yeah, mostly the males will keep to themselves, maybe join with other males in an area. So these females likewise will keep to themselves with their youngsters, and then, yeah, obviously you will find them same, also different sizes most of the time. Even though these ones, most of these females look like they're quite about the same age. Look how beautiful those white colors on that female kuru are. So I think we're going to leave this kuru here to continue with their day while we make our way towards that area where we last saw those lions. In the meantime, we'll send you over to Pinda. Let's see what Kim has in store for us.
Good morning, and welcome to And Beyond Pinda Private Game Reserve. As you can see, we found some more giraffes this morning. Funny enough, we actually started our part of the show yesterday with a whole group of giraffe, whereas it's known as a tower while they're standing still like this. And I think we might have found the same tower of giraffes this morning. They are giving us quite a little show. As you can see, this one's being a bit of a model. She keeps looking back at us. And she is quite the most beautiful little giraffe. You can see that long eyelashes, those beautiful tips of her ossicones, that long hair there. So, my name is Kim, And behind the camera we have Owen, and we will be with you this morning. It's quite a stunning morning here. You know, it's really... Oh, there's another one behind us. It's a nice, cool morning. We actually started with quite a bit of beautiful mist in the distance. And as we were on our way to head up to a viewpoint to see if we could get a view of that mist, we came across this group of giraffe. I started talking yesterday a little bit about those long eyelashes. And, you know, a lot of these giraffe in the background are feeding on leaves of thorns, and that's why you get these long eyelashes. It's really to protect the eye. It's not uncommon to see a giraffe with no eye, and it's because it's probably pushed its head into a thorn tree and accidentally got one of the thorns in its eye, which causes it to lose it. That's a lovely picture there with the two giraffes. You can see this female in the foreground and then that male just behind her in the background. It's actually a really nice contrast with, you can see how that lip hangs over. Tyron, that's a really good question, and Owen's framed up really nicely for us to show you one of the main reasons. If you look at those horns on the top, we call them ossicones. That's the first indication you're going to get of a male and female. So she's got very thin ones with a bit of tuft on the top of the hair, almost like a paintbrush. So we know this is a female. We can get a view of that male again, just behind her in the background. Yeah, there we go. If you have a look at his ossicones, you can see that there's actually a bald patch on the top. They're much, much thicker as well. So that is one of the ways to tell the males. If you can't see that, you'll actually see that he's got some lumps on his head as well. There's two lumps behind those ossicones. Quite difficult to tell at the moment. But he's got a prominent lump in front of the ossicones and two lumps behind. There we go. As he turns his head slightly, you can see that big bulge right in front of the ossicones. And what that is a buildup of calcium. And the males get that as soon as they reach fighting age. When they're fully mature, around 4 years, they start to develop that. And it's thought to either be to protect them from some fractured skulls, you know, that buildup that's starting to repair all that damage. You know, if they keep fighting with their heads, some of the skulls get a little bit fractured, and that way that buildup of calcium can repair that. Or another theory is actually it's more of a weapon that they use. So either a weapon, you know, in the front and the back of the ossicones, or a protection for their skull. I'm more of a favor towards the last two theories, because you will see every male without a doubt has that. Even this one, if we have a look closely here. He's hidden his head, but I can point out the other feature that we can, you can see I have small little protrusions starting to grow there in front of his ossicones. He hasn't worn away the top of those hairs yet, because this one is still quite young. He's not fully grown. But if we look at his belly, if we go in right into the middle of his belly, you're going to see a little segment of skin. That's the penis sheath there. So if you're ever in doubt, that's where to look. The females will have a completely flat belly. There's going to be no protrusion. But as you can see with males, that's what you look for. And what's nice is because especially with a young male like this, you know, he's still got hairs in the top of his ossicones. Sometimes females can have slightly thicker ossicones as well, which can make it confusing. But those are our ways to tell. Now, we actually had a viewer yesterday ask us about what is the purpose of a mane. And I wasn't quite sure, but I have had a look at it. And there's two reasons that I could find. One is that it helps to keep the neck of the animal warm. As you can imagine, it's one of the places they want to retain a bit of heat. But also, as it rains, it helps it to run off the neck, so that all the rain doesn't stand on the back of the neck. So those are two reasons we see a lot of animals having manes. You have a little head shake there. We see some flies are bothering this young little one. Actually see some ticks right behind that one ear. Marcus, they can be. You know, giraffes can have exceptionally brutal fights. You know, they've got a lot of power behind those necks. So when they swing them and they use those ossicones, it can, you know, fracture one of the other one's skulls, or even if that ossicone gets in the right place, it can even do some damage, you know, make sort of a cut into the animal's neck or something. And if they manage to hit an artery, that can be fatal. But mainly it's just the sheer force of the blow that can cause quite a bit of damage. So they end up breaking their necks more often than not. Most animals will actually try and not fight as much as they can. Even things like lions and leopards, you know, the fights I've seen have never actually been proper conflict fights. It's more been intimidation tactics. And the reason is because when any animal comes to blows, I think that's the term. It can result in death a lot of the time, because they are so fixated on winning at that point that they very seldom want to give up. You know, they really do feel, both of those animals, that they are the one that's going to be the victor, and that's why neither of them backs off until that point. You know, if you generally watch an animal fight, you're going to see them stand and side profile a lot, try and make themselves as big as and impressive as possible, and most of the time one is going to end up being out intimidated before there's even a fight. That's why when it comes to having a fight, it's often, you know, very serious and results in serious injuries. I think I actually heard one chewing there. So I think we still might try and head onto the top of the hill and see if we can see some of this beautiful mist. I think it's starting to burn off at the moment. But while we head over there, let's go over to Steve so he can say hello to you all this morning.
Well, thank you, Kim, and good morning, everybody. We came out of the gate following tracks of a leopard. There were some alarm calls in this area. Now we found a lioness, or Rexton's found a lioness, that is sniffing and sniffing and sniffing. Who is she? Who's she looking for? What is she on the trail of? So we had the tracks of the leopard. I was tracking it for a little bit. We heard some alarm calls. The tracks went the other way. We went that way. And now the alarm calls are clearly for this female, who is very, very busy. Good morning, everybody. My name is Steve, joined by Morgan on camera, and as always, we are very excited to have you with us. The dawn is always new. It always can provide with you wonderful, magical experiences. And let's carry on. The buffalo herd was coming in this direction yesterday. I don't know if this female is looking to track down buffalo on her own. I have a feeling she's trying to track down this okay, there's the buffalo dung. So they've come through here. Buffalo, there's her track. Buffalo tracks. They've come straight across here. We are joined in the sighting by another vehicle. I wonder if she is looking for the buffalo on her own. That would be rather brave of her, don't you think, Morgan? Very brave. But not unheard of. You know, I mean, lionesses do have the potential to bring down small buffalo. She's going to come into the open area here for us. She's just moving there. She is moving with some serious purpose. Let's try and get ahead here. Try and get a nice view. I love it when lions are on a mission. It's difficult for us though, but she's on an absolute mission right now. Who are you? Who are you? You're very pretty, whoever you are. It's a sub-adult. Hasn't yet had cubs. Wow, this is one of the telemates. She's got the injury on her head. They have been found at Hartlepool Rex, it's one of the Talamati females with that injury on the head. Interesting.
Yeah, it might be because they go over the medically.
Yeah, I definitely recognize that hole in the head from yesterday, a few days ago as well. Okay, so the rest of the pride has been found in Buffelshoek. They obviously came to hunt, did something, and have ended up, because they ended up all the way on the east, and now they've been found in Hartlepool, it's all the way on the west of Buffelshoek. And now she's tracking. Finally, a Talamati who's interested, seems, in buffalo. It's going to go onto the termite mound. It's going to keep moving. We're going to get up ahead, see if we can get you another view.
In preparation for our 14th birthday, we will be lighting up a fire and heading on a special journey down memory lane. Join Lauren and Steve on the 11th of April for a sentimental look through the archives.
The missing cubs have arrived!
Holy moly, everyone, this is incredible stuff.
Oh my goodness, everyone. Oh, there's two.
Who better to have as special guests than the Wild Earth co-founders Emily and Graham Wallington. They'll be answering questions about Wild Earth's fascinating journey since its launch in 2007. Following many requests, we've decided to make this event available to everyone, not just explorers. You do, however, need to be registered on the wildearth.tv website. Join us straight after the sunset drive on the 11th of April for what promises to be a remarkable evening.
Graham, I'm just going to see, there's a very good place I want to see if we can get good signal from there. That's where I'd like to.
Welcome to dawn in the African bush.
How cool is this? Can you believe it?
Those cubs are now only 10 feet from us. Unbelievable.
Elephants chasing wild dogs chasing elephants. Pandemonium!
Watching how Wild Earth has grown since 2007 has been truly remarkable. On the 27th of April this year, Wild Earth will be turning 14, and we would love to hear from you. Please send us your own special birthday message, which we can share with the rest of the Wild Earth family. Maybe you can tell us why you started watching Wild Earth, what Wild Earth means to you, or you could just send us a very happy birthday. Don't forget, when you want to film yourself, to hold your phone sideways to get the best angle. When you are ready, you can email your videos through to birthday@wildearth.tv.
Hi, my name is Tristan Dix, and I am a guide here at Yuma Private Game Reserve for Wild Earth. We love connecting you to the African bush, and we always look forward to all of your questions. If you want to ask a question on Wild Earth, you'll need to register on the website. Once registered, go to our live safari page and submit a question below the live feed. Catch up with me on Wild Earth.
Welcome back, everybody. Well, the Pride is I wouldn't say very far away, but look how she's going to find them. I don't see other lion tracks, so, they probably maybe got into a hunting situation last night, and they get disorientated. They get lost, and now she wants to find them. But most of the Pride is on Buffelshoek already, and the guy who's with them is still counting. They're still coming out of the bushes. But don't worry, everybody. These animals are very, very independent, very strong on their own, even though she's still a sub-adult. She's very good at looking after herself. Let's keep going. She's just going to do a lot of walking this morning. So no other lion tracks here. Riley, she was originally. We didn't hear her. He was actually coming in this direction to follow up on contact calls. And then himself, as well as our technician Marcel, who was coming back from doing his technical stuff, bumped into her. So Just a little And now she's going to try find them via buffalo smells. Oh no, don't go in there. So I definitely recognise her as one of the Telemati. She's got this double puncture wound just above her eye. I think we even spoke about it yesterday. I love it when lions have got characteristic features. Otherwise, they're just very hard to tell the difference, to be honest with you. Okay, well, we're going to try and keep up with our lioness, who's on the move. We send you over to Kim and beyond Pinder.
Welcome back, everyone. As you can see, as promised, we decided to go up a mountain just to show you what a beautiful blanket of mist we have around us this morning. You know, just some low-lying clouds. It's really making for quite a stunning morning. It really took my breath away as we started this drive and as we came over a few mountain tops. Just looking at this beautiful cloud cover. Absolutely stunning. Sure. Some of these sort of scenes are my favorite part of drive. You know, when you just stop on a mountain and have a look around. Tanya, it's going to clear up very soon. You know, the sun is starting to come out and it's already, I think a lot of it is dissipated since we started driving down here. You know, when we sort of first came over the mountains, it was almost this whole area was covered in like low-lying clouds, and as we're watching, it's actually disappearing in front of us. So the sun's going to burn most of it off, and it's going to be clear probably in the next 10 or 15 minutes, I would say. But in the meantime, it's just a spectacular view. You know, there's one photo one of our rangers took that's actually gone viral. It's really famous. It's a photo of a giraffe and a leopard walking down a very misty road. I mean, there's this leopard walking in the foreground and there's a giraffe at the background. And ever since I've seen that photo, every time I see the mist, I just really want some sort of spectacular sighting like that to present itself, because I think it just adds to the drama of it. But alas, and so far, nothing this morning. What's really nice to see is quite a thick cloud cover in the distance. So I'm wondering if we're actually going to get a little bit of rain today. But it doesn't seem to come from the south where we generally get our rain from. You can get a really good view of one of my favorite parts of the reserve now. So this is one of my favorite viewpoints, and as you can see that we're on the western side of our reserve, which is just these big open plains. So I think let's go and explore this area. Let's see what we find this morning. I know Steve has managed to find that lioness again, so let's send you over to him and see what she's up to.
Well, we are behind this lioness. There's tracks on the ground here of at least one other lioness. And she's sniffing, and every now and again she does a little bit of a jog. So she's definitely on the right trail. Possibly even another lioness. But they were hunting last night. They move quite far. A lot of people think to themselves, lions are so lazy. When they're lazy, they are incredibly lazy. But when they're on the move, they are on the move. So she's not physically seeing tracks, everybody. She can smell. She can smell the footprints of her sister or mom, somebody that she recognizes. And she's very keen to relocate. Oh, she's got a whiff there. Change of direction. Oh, Sammy, it's very hard for me to give you an answer to that. Wild dogs, I really don't know. They've all got very good sense of smell, but we always talk about dogs having a better sense of smell. Lions don't normally track animals with their nose, but I've seen a lioness follow a young lion follow its family for kilometers, which is what this one's going to do. So in that regard, yes, they've got very good sense of smell, but how do we compare? What I can tell you for sure is they're far better. They're far better than you or I. Far better than you or I. Okay, well, she's going to go straight through that block. The lions came here and went straight through the block. There we go. There's the track. Okay, so they're going to come out of Sandy Patch and go up north to where the rest of the pride is. I think hyenas have probably got a very good sense of smell in comparison. But how do you put them on a stage and say one's got a better sense of smell? Do you give them different levels of chili to smell and see which one smells them from further apart? Sorry. Kobe, thanks, fan. I was following those from the Voitela sign until we got this lioness. I'd love to come follow up. So she's going into the block here. Okay, good. Go ahead. Okay, we'll just switch it off. This lioness is heading straight through the block. We're not going to follow her. We know where she's going. We know where she's going. Quite incredible. I'd be able to smell like that just for a day. So no more lion tracks here. They've all gone through there. And we know where they're going to end up. Hardekoel on Bivelshoek, where unfortunately we don't have any signal. So we'll send you over to Pridelands, who are dying to say good morning.
Good morning and welcome to Wild Earth. We are live from Eco Training Pridelands. My name is JP Leroux and behind the camera we've got Johan. We've got a lovely cool morning. Temperatures are ideal for walking and we started our walk close by to Leopard Dam. And we'll start from here, working in a circular route and see what we can find. In the meanwhile, we've also noticed a number of interesting plant species that we would like to share with you. One of them is a grass that we have right over here. This grass is known as a turpentine grass. And if you do crush it in your fingers, you'll often notice that it's got a very pungent turpentine odor by which you can identify this grass. The structure that we see over here is referred to as an inflorescence, which is also fairly easy to identify. So this grass is also very unpalatable, and there's very few animals that will eat it. Maybe right at the end of the winter months, if it's the only thing that's still left, some animals might want to graze on it. We also find that in quite a few of the African cultures within Southern Africa, this was traditionally used for lining grain baskets because of that being so unpalatable that not even rats and mice would like to try and eat through the turpentine grass to get to the reward on the other side of a grain basket. The other plant that we would like to share with you, which is right over here, is a common spike thorn. It's a fairly easy plant to identify because it's got very prominent spines or spikes, which is designed to protect the plant against browsers. If we also look at the bark, it's quite dark grey and fused, and for some reason quite often covered with lichens. This little structure that's growing over here is the lichen. This is actually a combination between a fungus and an algae. So a fungi has the ability to extract nutrients from the dead outer layer of the bark, while the algae has the ability to photosynthesize and create food in the form of carbohydrates by means of by means of sunlight. And in this way, they complement one another through a symbiotic relationship. Some of the other interesting uses for this plant is treating dysentery and a number of other stomach problems. It's also often used in a belief that it can cure snakebite. So some of the parts of a plant is often crushed and then mixed with fat, and also with a crushed skull of a specific snake species. In the meanwhile, we're going to continue our search for some animals and hand you over to Steve.
We found the second lioness. The other one was we left it moving to the block. And then this...
I'll go and check the Western Edge of County.
Then this adult... we found her in the open here, and she started calling, and the youngster came running, so excited. They'd now done a proper little meet and greet. Very excited that they're not on their own. Oh, sorry, they're incredibly muscular, incredibly powerful. Very, very strong individuals. Fully grown, lioness gets up to 135, 140 kilograms. I don't know many men that are that big. And if you do know a man who's that big, I can tell you he's not anywhere near as agile as a lioness. Some of the biggest rugby players we have get about 120, and they're big, but they're not very mobile, not very quick around the field, whereas these things are incredibly powerful, incredibly mobile, incredibly agile, charging speeds of 90 kilometers an hour. That's 45 miles an hour. Tell me anyone who weighs 300 pounds who can run 90 kilometers an hour, 45 kilometers an hour, 45 miles an hour. No chance. Okay, so there's alarm calls all over the place. We also remember that sometimes that is the rutting males. There are some impala shouting here specifically for these lionesses. You could see when she was on her own, there was like a panic. It was like, yes, I'm alone. I'm a social cat, don't you know? I'm alone. Liam, well, they're nocturnal, so the nocturnal takes them into the early morning, and then as the sun and the heat starts to warm up, they start becoming inactive. As winter arrives, or if it's an overcast day, cloudy and cool, they could be active the whole day. They could hunt at any stage. It's all about temperature, it's all about energy, and at night, it's very efficient for them to move around. We spoke about their weight. It's very energy consuming, moving that body around. So they try and do so when the conditions are most suitable, most favorable. Most of our big predators are nocturnal. But it doesn't mean that they're not active. They just go through bouts of huge super inactivity. Like now you can see they're just catching their breath because they've been moving quite a bit in like bit of panic, trying to catch up with the rest of the pride, not knowing where they are. That happens at night when they're hunting and they end up following a different herd of animals, or a herd of animals goes this way, they split, the pride goes that way. These two went the other way, ended up a completely different road, completely different route. They're still hunting, so they're not contact calling. Eventually they've walked the wrong way. Finally they find themselves kilometers apart. But it's all right, they'll relocate each other this evening, if not this morning. Looks like they might be settling down now, or that they found a friend. We're going to stay here with our lionesses and send you back over to the bushwalk team.
Good morning and welcome back to Eco Training Pridelands. As we continue our walk towards the dam, we've located a very small tree that's known as an apple leaf. And one of the reasons why it's called an apple leaf is because when you crush the leaves in your hand, it actually sounds like an apple that is being chewed. So one of the interesting things about this plant is that it's often used as a fish toxin. And this toxin is obtained from the roots, and the toxin is known as rotenone. It's also used for a number of other purposes. For example, in Okavango Delta, it's quite often used for poles. It's used by Mokoro, for pushing your mokoro, which is a dugout canoe. The other interesting thing that they also use this for is in times of drought, where the leaves will be cooked as an alternative for spinach. So as we walked on our little footpath, we've noticed that there's quite a lot of mud smears on the back end of these leaves. And we know that there was a large amount of elephant that was moving through close by to the dam, and this also is often a way for us to detecting the direction of which side the mud is on the plant. So we could see that it's been pushed into this direction as the two animals were moving away. The alternative name for this tree is also a rain tree. And what we do find is that at certain times of the year, these trees become infested with this bug that's known as a spittle bug. And these spittle bugs will start sucking out the sap from these trees. And quite often, if there's a large number of them on the tree, it will actually seem as if the tree is actually raining. It's just them getting rid of the excess moisture that they have been sucking out as if they're absorbing the nutrients. What we also find is that nutrients and moisture then also becomes available to the apple leaf as it drops directly below the tree, close by to the stem. We're going to head off and see what we can go and find at the dam. And in the meanwhile, we're going to hand you over to Kim, who's in Pinder.
Just listen to that. And here our white-faced whistling ducks calling me. So what we zoomed in on at the moment, we've got two very playful hippos. One of our beautiful watering holes. But they've both gone under the water now. It's been quite funny to watch them. They've been tussling with each other a little bit. There's a white-faced whistling duck. And there's the hippo coming back up. They can hold their breath. Ah, there we go. Look there. Awesome to see. Look at those tusks. They've got massive, massive teeth. And you can see they, even though they look quite big, the one is a little bit smaller. That one that's just turned around and flopped back in the water. And look how the other one's trying to rest his head on the back of that other hippo. So this really is all about dominance. There we go again, trying to mount it on the back. It's very much a dominance display. That and also raising the mouth and showing those teeth. All about trying to intimidate each other and show dominance. This isn't a proper fight though. Oh, look at this. Look at this go. Actually properly chasing each other there. So as I say, it's not a proper fight, you know, the... Oh my gosh. When hippos really do fight, it can be incredibly vicious. It often takes place out of the water when it's a territorial battle. Yeah, so these two are just younger males that are practicing their play fighting. But in this whole pod here, there's going to be one territorial bull, dominant bull. And he's the only one that's going to have mating rights within the whole pod. You can see there's quite a few. Often the territorial males off to the side. Might be this one here. Roger, thanks for your question. I think it's fairly similar to humans. You know, I think they do have better vision than we do underwater, but I think it does, it's reliant on the murkiness of the water itself. So even though they can see a bit better, I think if the water's very murky, they still don't have excellent vision. But that's a very good question. I can hear some baboons off to our right as well. You know, it is actually quite lovely to sit and watch hippos play fight. You don't often see them doing too much, especially when it's, you know, in the middle of the day. They are nocturnal, so they tend to go out in the evening to graze and spend most of their day sleeping and sort of keeping out of the sun and the water. So it's really nice to see them active like this, especially in an area that we don't often, this watering hole isn't often filled with water. You can see how it's shaking its ears there. So some of the things, the way that they adapted. So Kelly just asked if I can tell how old the hippos are. And Kelly, it's very difficult with hippo. You know, a lot of the ways we age animals is that you look at the condition of the animal itself and the size. So it's quite difficult with hippo because they are mostly submerged. Generally their ears are in good condition, so you can't really age them using that, which is most of the way we age other animals. And it's very difficult to compare their size to other hippos because most of them are submerged. So I can't tell you the exact age of a lot of them. I can tell you that there is a female off to the far left at the back there with a very young hippo. Let's just move off here. So if we look towards the reeds there at the very back, yeah, there we go. If we zoom in there. Now there was actually, I don't know if we've lost that little young hippo's head. I think it might have just gone under the water. But there is a young hippo with her there, which will be less. There we go. You can see its nose popping up, and now it's down. So that will be less than 2 months because she's actually separated herself from the pod. And that's because she's got a very young calf with her. She doesn't want to reintroduce to the pod just yet. So we can age those ones quite successfully. The rest are a bit more difficult. So we started to talk a little bit about the adaptations that the hippos have. Can you hear those white-faced whistling ducks? Oh, here's one flying over the water. Look at all of them. So these white-faced whistling ducks in Zulu are called Nzwinzwi. Nzwinzwi, sorry, I can never say it properly. And it's because it sounds like the sound that they make. One of my favorite things about Zulu words is that they often are very descriptive in terms of the sounds. So we have a look at a bit of the adaptations. So if you have a look at those ears actually fold in when they go underwater. That's why you often see them spring out. Do you see there? See how that one sprung out and then shook? It's because they fold in to stop the water going in them every time they go underwater. Then they've got a membrane that actually covers their eyes, which helps them to see underwater. So it prevents their eyes from getting, sore from opening them underwater. And then their nostrils also close every time they go underwater. So as soon as their head pops up, I actually see they often spray out some water because they're opening those nostrils as well. So I think these hippos have started to settle down. You can see that they've finished their play fight and they're starting to get a bit more sleepy. So what we're going to do is we're going to head out into those open areas and we're going to look for some cheetah that they found yesterday. See if we can maybe find some tracks or signs of them.
Nestled on the banks of one of the largest lakes in the Sabi Sands lies an award-winning game lodge called Chitwa Chitwa. Many of you will have been on safari here virtually with Wild Earth, but now we are offering you the chance to see it for yourself in person. Sign up to be a Wild Earth explorer before the end of April, and you and a friend could win 3 nights to this luxury lodge. In addition to the unforgettable safaris, you can unwind on the deck, relax in the pool, and even savor the various bush dining experiences. Chitwa's holistic approach to hospitality, with specific emphasis on conservation, will leave you with the very best memories of the African wild. Wild Earth Explorers, it's in your nature.
So in 1998, we had this idea to go and put a live web camera on a waterhole somewhere in the Sabi Sands next to the Kruger National Park. And I approached just about every single landowner and everybody thought I was completely crazy until I met Yuri and Pippa Moorman.
We thought it was definitely a fun idea and a worthwhile thing to experiment.
And it immediately became a runaway success. And it gave people all around the world the opportunity to watch a little piece of Africa, day and night. Back in 1998, it was the very early stages of the internet. And all we were able to do was to get a 30-second refreshing JPEG out of that camera. But over time, what we began to do is focus more and more on trying to develop this concept of giving people the opportunity to go on safari.
Even though we live just 500 meters up this hill, we still put the camera on to see what's happening.
Absolutely, we watch it ourselves.
I'm Nikki here at Ambion Ngala in South Africa. I love getting questions from viewers about all the small things within the environment and how it all is integrated with one another. If you want to ask me any questions, please simply register with the Wild Earth website, head across to the Live Safari page and then post your questions there. I'm looking forward to chatting to you on my next Wild Earth drive.
Welcome back to and beyond Ngala, everyone. look at that one ross male lying flat right there in front of us. So we have come to that area where we last left those lions hunting last night. And this is what we have come to this morning. So we just found this one ross male here close to the road. And yeah, it looks like it is that brother who was seen yesterday with the other lioness and the 3 cubs. But there's no sign of them in this area here. So you might find that he has left them maybe after dark last night and went about patrolling his territory. Maybe a bit of contact calling in between him and his brother. And yeah, he might have had a very long night. So that's why you can see him just resting there, taking it easy, trying to conserve that energy that he might have left. So he does really need to recuperate after being active for the rest of the night. So as we drove into this area, it was very, very close to the road. So he just moved to where you see him lying now. So it is still slightly cooler, but looks like it's gonna be a hot day. So it's just a matter of time before he also leaves that area, because as you can see, it's not in a shady area there. However, there are some good trees around him here, which if he does get that cold, he will just move towards a tree that will be on the shade. And also, I see from where you are, you might struggle seeing his belly, but looks like he also hasn't fed, at least between last night and this morning. So he will rely mostly on those animals that we're hunting, either those ones that we're watching hunting or even that lioness with the 3 cubs. You just be hoping that at least one of them make a kill, and while it is that close to him that he will be able to hear everything going down, that he might rush into that area and get there, claim whatever it is that these other lionesses might have killed. Just notice him breathing on his belly there. There's barely any movement other than that. Yeah, Justin would like to know how long have these males been in Ngala for. So with these ones, Justin, I think, well, I stand to be corrected on this, but we think they are just between maybe 10 and 11 or just over 10 years. And with this Lions Coalition, like, they can start competing for territories anything from 5 years, and they be their prime at around 7. So I think they might have been here for maybe 4 years, give or take, maybe slightly longer than that. But yeah, they do look like they're in very good condition. So they might be here maybe for the next little while or so. We haven't really seen his brother in the last while. But yeah, I do believe it's somewhere in this territory here. And because they do have a large territory that they need to defend, even to patrol. So sometimes they'll do it together, but other times they'll just separate so that they will be quick when doing that patrolling. And as you can see him lying there, that will be after those patrolling of territories, making sure that there are no intruders who would want to take over their turf or their pride. Yeah, so for now, it looks like he's having a cat nap over there. So we'll just keep on continuing searching for those other ones. Hopefully they might have killed something during the night. If maybe we'll see some vultures or anything like that, hyena activity that might indicate to us that there might be a carcass around this area. So we'll send you over to Pridelands. Let's see what JP has in store for us.
Good morning and welcome back to Eco Training Pridelands. While the weather is nice and cool, we're actually using the opportunity to also getting in a little bit of birding this morning. And we've just located on these Blacksmith Lap Wings. These are the black, white and grey birds that you can see. There's a number of interesting behaviours that I would actually like to share with you about these birds. Firstly, they do get their name Blacksmith Lapwing from the sound that they produce, as a pinging noise that they create is similar to that of iron that's been struck on an anvil. Some of the behaviours that I find particularly fascinating is a behaviour that's called mobbing. When they locate potential threats, they will often fly towards that threat and dive bomb them while they're shouting. They also have an additional little weapon in their favour, which is a tiny little sharp spur that's in the tip of their wing that they will use against a potential threat. The other behaviour that I find particularly interesting about lapwings in general is what they refer to as a distraction display, where they will pretend to actually have a broken wing or be injured and then distract the predator away from the nest or where their chicks is. Once that predator is sufficiently away from the chick and the nest, then they will fly up and continue as normal. And hopefully by then the predator have lost interest. A blacksmith lapwing, which we see over here, we commonly find quite close by to water. However, sometimes they go and loaf away from water. A second species of lapwing that we find quite commonly in this area is known as a crown lapwing, which tends to almost always be away from water. Good morning, Lucas. There's a number of different animals that will prey on them. Anything from civets, genets, otters, and then also a number of different mongoose species, and also birds of prey and species such as snakes. And also monitor lizards will use the opportunity to eat them if they can find them, especially if the monitor lizard can locate on the chicks or the eggs. We're going to continue our walk and see what we can find for you. In the meanwhile, we're going to hand you over to Steve, who's currently enjoying lions.
What a lovely idea. Bit of birding. Lovely to do birding when there are lions around. We like doing birding as well. When there are lions around, and we, Morgan. Yes, you do. Vauxhall Drongo, hello. Just been shouting at these lions. I wonder if you can get that one who's flying there. That'd be wonderful if you could. He's just landed at 11 o'clock. You see it? Looks like a young Jacobin or a Valence cuckoo. Right over here. Oh, it's a young Jacobin. How awesome. Probably just fledged.
Just Steve Forrest.
Go ahead, Rex.
I just want to let you know that Ghana is located in only one place of if you want to go in the village of Ghana.
Copy, thanks. I'm still with these two lionesses at the junction. Sandy Patch for tele-access.
Check.
Lovely to do some birding. So, Jacamacuckoo. When I say young, it's because most likely the adult Jacobins have already left. But then in saying that, the season is such that some of the birds are probably still hanging around. We saw some starlings flying in there. More commonly brood parasites of bulbuls and the common fiscal shrike. Juan, well, she definitely looked a little bit stressed. You know, I mean, she would have eventually found, but she had that sort of very alert, sort of panicky sort of feeling. But it's because the one that we first were following was a youngster. She's just 2 years old, so she's not used to not being without the pride. They've been, since the day she was born, she's been with her litter mates, been with her mum, has left her for a few days from time to time. But lately, they've been together all the time. And so being disconnected like that is, they get a little bit panicky, it seems. But you see how quickly they calm down when they saw each other. They suddenly are just very, very relaxed now. They're probably going to stay the entire day, just like this. There's a little bit of guarri, little guarri bush here. It's keeping them nice and shaded. Emily, yes, they talk about bovine tuberculosis, bovine TB, which is buffaloes are carriers of, and lions do pick it up. Leopards do as well for scavenging of lion.
Welcome back, everyone. So on our search for cheetah, we have come across this beautiful herd of buffalo right in these open plains. We've got a lovely vantage point here. As you can see, they spread out really nicely, this open area here. They're not moving too fast, they're just actually busy grazing at the moment. Slowly moving up. But as you can see, they spread out a little bit. It's a really nice way to explain buffalo dynamics. Because as you can see, there is sort of a distinctive line even though they spread out and feeding. And why that is because there's quite a hierarchy system amongst this herd. The high-ranking females. And some of the high-ranking males will be up in the front. And the reason for that is that that's the best grass. It hasn't been trod on yet, there's no dung on it. Also, it's the lowest risk of predation because generally when a pride of lion are going to hunt buffalo, they'll often follow them from behind. Much easier for them to grab one that way. Also because buffalo are very defensive of each other and will actually charge down a lion to save one of the buffaloes. So if they manage to get one at the back, it's much safer for them as well. So generally higher ranking females and the young are in the front, and as you head down towards the back end, those are the lower ranking females. And unfortunately for their calves, all the positions in that hierarchy inherited from the mother, so it's very difficult for them to actually move up if they've been born to a low ranking mother. You can actually see right in the middle, it's a tree that's moving. It's actually quite difficult from here. I just spotted it with my binoculars. You can see they're actually starting to move a bit quicker now. You might find that they're finding that they want to start moving off towards some water perhaps, maybe some other grazing area. You can see all their tails going as well, so you can imagine the amount of flies that are going to be present at this herd of buffalo. I think everyone, I agree with you. This is a beautiful scene. You see that one's giving itself a bit of a scratch, tummy rub. They found, the nice thing for them about this area is they've got beautiful grazing, but also some of these low-lying bushes, which serve as really good rubbing posts for them and try and scratch those hard-to-reach areas. If you have a look at some of them, they've got some dried-out mud, which they would have had from mud wallowing. But the reason they do that is when they scratch it off, that friction with the branch or whatever, and that mud manages to exfoliate their skin a little bit. There we go, you see that one, scrubbing the belly, rubbing the belly on that small bush. Even some grass that's stuck on her back there. So that friction actually helps get rid of parasites, especially ticks. Oh, there's one doing a Fleming grimace behind. Look there. I don't know if you just saw it exposing the teeth. So what it's done is they've got this organ behind their palate called a Jacobson's organ. And when they pull... Oh, there's a small one doing it as well. Oh, my word. Look at the calf. Amazing, the mimicry. So that mother would have urinated. And then those other two are pulling that scent of the urine back by exposing their teeth. They sort of inhale and pull their lips back to get that scent of the urine onto that Jacobson's organ. And then that will translate naturally into information for them. So that organ then sort of processes the information that the urine provides. So if the female's an estrus, if she's not, how old she is, variety of different things that they can tell just from doing that Fleming grimace. You'll see a lot of animals can do that. Lions included, horses, buffalo, zebra as well. It's an important part of the process. Sometimes it's nice to just sit and watch the scene unfold around you. Earlier we were saying, how quickly will that mist disappear, and you can see it's already all gone. But luckily we've got some nice cloudy weather that's going to keep us cool today as well. And these buffalo have really found themselves in a lovely spot. We followed their tracks and their dung for quite a while. So I think what they would have done is move through this area late yesterday afternoon and probably settled down close to where we found them now. Spend the evening out in an open area. And then now they've woken up, probably around, as the sun sort of rose, they would get up, start moving around, start slowly feeding. And there's a big watering hole not too far from here that I think that's their general direction. They're not in any rush to get there, but they are very water dependent animals. So I think eventually they're going to wind up there having a drink. They will drink at least once a day. Ben, who's actually 9 years old and has given us a fantastic question. The buffalo herds will vary in size. So what we're looking at here, I would estimate there's probably 30 odd, maybe 40 buffalo somewhere in this group. So this would be comprised of a number of family units. And what happens is that family units will stay together, so all related females will stay together for life, and then there'll be a few bulls that stay with that family unit as well. And the family units can join up with other family units, or they can stay by themselves. And generally, when there's not a lot of grazing, you'll see massive herds of buffalo, which comprise of a lot of family units. Now that there's, plentiful grazing, and they don't have to walk very far, they'll rather stay in one small area with, fewer of them. And the reason is that they feel a lot safer to just stay in a small area than they would if they had to walk long distances. That's when they feel, really exposed, because they don't know what they're walking into the entire time. If they're staying in the same spot, they're quite alert. There's a lot of them looking around. There's chances of predators surprising them. So it will vary from during the year. Generally winter months you'll see larger herds of buffalo together. Now we'll see smaller ones. But we have over 400 buffalo on our reserve, so we've got a lot. This is a nice big herd to see at this time of the year, though. You sometimes even see smaller herds, maybe just one family unit together. This is probably 2 or 3 family units. It's so nice as we're quiet, you can actually hear them slowly just moving through that grass. Yeah, so definitely right now they're just slowly feeding. When they decide to move off to a different area, you'll see that they actually will start forming into a single file, and we get these things called pathfinders that will lead them off quite quickly. But I think we're going to leave these buffalo for now and try and maybe look for them a bit later when I think they're going to go to that watering hole, and see if we can continue looking for those cheetah. But in the meantime, let's send you over to JP at Pridelands and see what he's managed to find for you this morning.
Good morning and welcome back to Eco Trading Pridelands. We've been continuing our walk and looking at a number of different field signs this morning, ranging from tracks as well as dung. What we've located on here is very, very fresh scrub hare dung. And if we look over here, this is slightly older. So when it comes to hares, they will often re-eat their feces. And this is referred to as a process called coprophagy, where you will eat your feces to regain the necessary nutrients and minerals which you didn't absorb on the first eating. So literally eating it twice. So the feces that we locate over here is referred to as night feces, which is scattered and left, while the day feces, which is produced while they are resting, will be re-eaten. When we look at the composition of the dung, it's very fine-grained because of the second feeding. Normally, when it comes to animals which has a single large intestine, which we refer to as hindgut fermenters, this will be quite coarse-grained. For example, with elephants and species such as rhino, whose dung is very coarse and loosely packed, making it look very similar to that of a ruminant. Right over here, we've also got the dung of a impala, which is a ruminant, so having a very complex 4-chambered stomach, you can see that the dung itself is very compacted and also fine-grained. So one of the benefits of being a ruminant compared to a hindgut fermenter is that you actually absorb the maximum amount of nutrients from your food. So the eating of feces is not only restricted to species such as hares, most of your rodents will do it as well. And then other species where we find this behavior is also with warthog, elephant, and species such as zebra, where the young will specifically feed on the feces of the mother so that it can inoculate the gut with the necessary bacteria to assist with the breaking down and the digestion of the food inside the stomach. Also, when it comes to handling dung, I only handle the dung of plant eaters, and I avoid handling any feces or scat from predators, as that can potentially hold a number of bacteria and viruses which can be incredibly harmful to us as human beings. In the meanwhile, we're going to hand you over to Marcus, who is in Angola, and we're going to continue our walk.
Welcome back to NBO Angola. So we are still trying to find where that pride might have went. Those lionesses that were hunting yesterday. So we drove a few roads around where we last saw them, and so far there's no sign of them. We do get some few tracks here and there that we are still trying to follow up on. So yeah, it is a bit of a mission sometimes, because you don't really know how far they might have traveled during the night. And also, they did look like they could do with a meal, so while they still had the advantage of the darkness, I'm sure they might have even traveled good distances from where we last saw them. And we don't really know whether they have been successful or not. So only time will tell. But yeah, we are still on that mission of finding those ones. That will be quite nice to see what have happened during the night. Or even better if they did hunt and they were successful. Always beautiful to see lions on their feet. And so far there is no sign of these lions here. But yeah, So Dana, I would like to know, how long can a lion keep up its speed when chasing prey? So these lions, when they hunt, they are very strategic about it. So since lions live in pride, so they depend on one another for hunting. When they find a quarry or the prey species, they get in positions like that, and then they will try and stalk that animal, get to it as close as possible before running at it. So like at full speed, they can't really sustain that speed for that long. So maybe 100 meters or even less. If they see that this prey species has gotten away, then they'll try call off their hunt. So they rely more on that element of surprise when stalking. Then they don't really have to run that much. They run for a shorter time, and more often than not, you'll find that at that time they would have caught whatever it is that they were after. So they do not really have endurance, more like animals like a wild dog would. So yeah, let's keep this search up. Hopefully it will be fruitful. .
preparation for our 14th birthday, we will be lighting up a fire and heading on a special journey down memory lane. Join Lauren and Steve on the 11th of April for a sentimental look through the archives.
The missing cubs have arrived!
Holy moly, everyone, this is incredible stuff.
Oh my goodness, everyone. Oh, there's two.
Who better to have as special guests than the Wild Earth co-founders Emily and Graham Wallington. They'll be answering questions about Wild Earth's fascinating journey since its launch in 2007. Following many requests, we've decided to make this event available to everyone, not just explorers. You do, however, need to be registered on the wildearth.tv website. Join us straight after the sunset drive on the 11th of April for what promises to be a remarkable evening. For many years, Wild Earth has taken viewers from around the world to the Mara Triangle, a place of majestic beauty and abundant wildlife. But it wasn't always like this. Before 2001, it was infested with poachers. Illegal harvesting and hunting was rife. Now the situation couldn't be more different. The hard work and dedication of the Mara Conservancy has revolutionized this magical land. But now, the loss of revenue from tourism has created a grave crisis. The Mara Conservancy needs help if they are to continue protecting the reserve and supporting the local communities whose livelihood depend on its survival.
My name is Ross and I'm a field guide at and Beyond Pinder Private Game Reserve. I love getting questions from guests on Wild Earth because I love sharing and learning information about nature with new people, and it also makes me feel like you're all joining me in real life. If you want to ask a question on Wild Earth, then you need to register on our website. Once registered, go to our live safari page and submit your question below our live feed.
Welcome back to and Beyond Gala, everyone. So now, like I mentioned earlier, we don't have any proof or evidence of these lions that they might have walked in this road. However, there is one water body that it is around in this area. So animals like these lions that we are looking for, sometimes when they did hunt, maybe during the night, and then they were not successful, they do sometimes walk to water bodies, especially in the early hours of the morning when they know that other animals like the prey species might go and wanna drink some water. So we find that these lions sometimes will head in that area with the water bodies, and maybe just where they've got a bit of cover very close to the water hole, they go and wait there hoping for something to walk in that they can surprise, and if lucky get to kill so that they do feed. And that water hole is actually not too far from where we are right now. So I think that will be our best bet, especially now that we can't see any tracks on this road here. For me,
Welcome back. So we just had this wildebeest who was doing a lovely territorial marking. If you zoom in under that tree, I don't know if we can see it from here actually. He had his little territorial area there. He was busy rolling around in the dirt, trying to stimulate some of his glands under his hooves and the glands on his face. They are very territorial at the moment. This is when they're going to start mating. But unfortunately, he just got a bit of a fright and ran off. Ran off while we were trying to get a good view of him. So unfortunately, we've lost him for now. Let me actually just carry on driving through this open area. Oh, there he's going. Let's see if we can get another view of him. The road that goes down here. Just walking up that road to our left. And off he goes. So that wildebeest, he's the territorial male for this area. And like I said, he was busy trying to stimulate some of his glands. You know, that scent he's going to spread through his territory. It's actually a very small territory. They don't have very large ones at all. But this male in particular has got a fantastic one because there's very good grazing in this area. But also, there's a whole lot of water. You know, we just saw that big watering hole that we drove past. And that's part of his territory. So obviously that's a big draw for female wildebeest in the area to spend quite a bit of time here. They've got food, they've got water, and the more time they spend here, the more chance he has to mate with them and pass his genes on. So if we're looking at him, he's actually quite in prime condition. Oh, look what he's doing now. You see how he kicked up some dirt there. So again, he's trying to get those glands in between his hooves to start secreting a substance by actually kicking the dirt around. Now you'll see he'll put his head down, watch there. He's literally rubbing his face in that dirt, again secreting and getting those glands on his face, his preorbital glands, to get that scent sort of being released. And then he'll rub his whole body in that dirt and in that scent. So as he walks through his territory, he's carrying that scent all throughout. And that's just a signal to other males, hey, this is my territory. If you want to come in and take this over, you're going to have to challenge me. You're going to see a lot more of this behavior at this time of the year because they are starting to mate with the females. So now there's even more displays of dominance and territorial behavior. What's amazing is you can see he's not following any particular path. So, Carmen, that's an interesting question. I think to some degree they are habituated in terms of the fact that they're used to vehicles driving around. You know, we are a natural part of their landscape and the environment right now. So they're quite used to us just being in the area. That being said, there's a lot of animals that are still quite nervous of us. You know, the warthogs, for instance, in some areas I find it's always very difficult to get a good view of warthog because they see you and they run. Also, our hyena are still quite nervous of vehicles. Some of our leopard are still very nervous of vehicles. So some animals, yeah, they're habituated, and others are still going to take a little while. Sure. This is such a beautiful area. So I think what we're going to do... oh no, hold on, I think I just turned around and looked back at the watering hole and I thought I saw something there, but it's actually just a branch. But I think let's go back there and do a little bit of birding and see what kind of birds, because we've got a whole lot of woolly neck stalks behind us. Oh, there's a zebra coming off to our right. It's trotting off here as well. All these animals seem to be running away the second they see us. No, it's gone. All right, let's go to this watering hole. And let's see if we can do a bit of birding. It's one of my favorite watering holes, this one, because I've seen elephants swimming in here before. Sorry, Jared, I didn't quite copy that last question. Can you go again with it? Jerome, thank you for your question. So Pinda is just below Swaziland. It's a bit south of Swaziland, very close to Sodwana Bay in KwaZulu-Natal. We're situated very close to the coast. So it's one of the few reserves where you can actually, in the morning, go on your safari, see lions and leopard and elephant, and in the afternoon you can actually take a trip to Sodwana and go on like a scuba diving safari and see whales and dolphins and all of those things. So quite a lovely rare thing that we have here. Let's just have a look at what birds we've got along the shoreline here. The shoreline, the edge of the water. I can actually see you've got a monkey. Yeah, there's a vervet monkey. And they're just skirting along the sides here. I think they're trying to find some like leaf litter or something on the ground to feed on. I saw a terrapin on the far left. And if you have a look, it's just sunbathing, basking out in the sun. It's just to the right of that little umbrella thorn. And if you zoom in there where that grassy patch is, you can see something that's glistening on the shoreline there. You should get it soon. There it is. You can see this terrapin sunbathing his head, and you can see he's gone and blended quite in with the background. So he's just sitting out in the sun, regulating his temperature a little bit. I often find these little terrapins, just their heads poking out of the water. Well, actually carnivorous, so they feed on insects and things. So he's not waiting for grass or anything. He's just sunbathing at the moment. But I think let's carry on exploring this area, seeing if we can find some tracks of the cheetah. But in the meantime, we're going to send you over to Steve at Djuma and see what he's managed to find.
Well, welcome back to Buffelshoek, everybody, where we left our two lionesses lying up flat at the junction. We came back to follow up on Tingana, and he's not far from where he was last night. He's got quite a full belly, but there's no sign of his warthog anywhere. There were a couple tracks of hyena nearby, and he's been sitting out in the open for us for quite some time, and now he's just gone and ensconced himself in this little thicket. You can imagine how many times we drive past something like that all the time. Yeah, William, that's the sort of mindset. The purpose of territories is to travel them and to keep the boundaries secure. But he's basically just jumping between this property and that property, and he's normally just going the shortest route there and back. He's probably hearing other male leopards calling and just avoiding them. He can do that for quite some time. Also, there's quite a bit of food available. Well, the food's all over at the moment, so he's having to move more at the moment, probably as it starts getting drier. We might find him hanging around a little bit closer to a watering hole and just taking those opportunities. Lounging out by the pool, having a few cocktails, waiting for the meals to arrive for him. It's always been such an impressive leopard and still is. Got that little laceration on his left shoulder. Looks like it might have been from a warthog tusk or something like that. He was licking quite a lot just before. I think he's still licking it, Morgan. Huge amounts of antibiotic or antiseptic properties in their own saliva. Although if one licked you, I don't think it would give you the same benefits.
We are currently driving on this road, heading towards one of the water holes that is on our eastern part of the property. So that's where we're hoping that maybe we'll just find something, whether be it buffaloes or even elephants drinking. So it's always worth a drive. At these early hours of the morning, like, animals would make their way to such water holes to see, or maybe for a drink. And which also I mentioned earlier that also lions, when they have hunted during the night, they weren't successful, they will try and do something like that, just go in an area close to the water hole, find themselves some bushes that they can remain concealed from all these other animals, and then wait for the prey species to make their way to that water hole for a drink, and then that's when these lions will try and surprise the prey species. So it will be quite nice to see when we get there what will happen. If we are lucky, there will be some activities, at least there will be some life in that water hole. But sometimes you do get to a water hole and you find that there's just nothing, at least that you can see or you can be able to show to the viewers. But I'm hoping that we do find something that we'll be able to share with you guys. And yeah, much as we are looking for these other members of the Birmingham Pride, you never know, like this bush. So Lila would like to know if I've ever seen a lion hunt bear or fish. No, Lila, I've never seen a lion hunting bear or fish. That being said, I'm not ruling it out. So remember, we always say these lions are opportunistic. And if there is a need for a feed, they might take anything and everything readily available for them, or something that won't really make them use as much energy while hunting. So if an opportunity does present itself with a bird, I'm sure that a lion will definitely go for that one. Because yeah, food is food, regardless of the size or even the taste, if I can put it like that. But yeah, personally, I've never seen a lion hunting bear or fish. So we'll just continue making our way towards that water hole. And then come with us for anything else that we might be able to find along the road or along the way. Beautiful, nice trees here that can be shade for these lions while resting, or even cover if they are hunting. Because the plan when lions hunt is just to stay undetected. No, they will use all the available cover to them. So we'll just try and make our way. It is a bit of drive from where we are now. Maybe in the next 15 or so minutes, we might be on that water hole and see what that water hole might be able or will be able to surprise us with. Hopefully something exciting for the viewers. So we also had some So Linda would like to know if fishing is allowed in the reserve. No, Linda, here in Kruger we don't really allow fishing. So we'll try and keep everything as wild as possible. So because these water bodies, most of them are very far from the lodges, and then one will have to travel when going there. And then sometimes, like, we've got these water holes that have got some crocodiles and even hippos. So just to keep everyone safe, we don't allow fishing here. However, those water bodies that do have some crocodiles in them, well, the crocodiles will obviously go for some fish. We've got one water hole that has got some crocodiles and a lot of these catfish. That's when sometimes we see a lot of crocodiles taking down some of those catfish. Because, yeah, these crocs need to feed, so they can go for the fish, but we are not allowed to. So join me, continue on this quest for the lions, heading towards that water hole, and hopefully we'll be able to find something exciting for the viewers there.
On the 27th of April, Wild Earth will be turning 14 years old, and we wouldn't be here if it wasn't for all of you. And to celebrate, we will be finishing the beautiful book that we started last year that looks at the history so far. But we do need you to be part of it. Please submit your most memorable sighting, or what Wild Earth means to you, or even just your name and a comment to be included inside the book. Head over to the website to add your name and reserve your copy. And a big thank you to all of you who have contributed to the book so far.
Graham, I'm just going to see, there's a very good place. I want to see if we can get good signal from there. That's what I'd like to know.
Welcome to dawn in the African bush.
How cool is this? Can you believe it?
Those cubs are now only 10 feet from us. Unbelievable.
Elephants chasing wild dogs chasing elephants. Pandemonium!
Watching how Wild Earth has grown since 2007 has been truly remarkable. On the 27th of April this year, Wild Earth will be turning 14, and we would love to hear from you. Please send us your own special birthday message, which we can share with the rest of the Wild Earth family. Maybe you can tell us why you started watching Wild Earth, what Wild Earth means to you, or you could just send us a very happy birthday. Don't forget, when you want to film yourself, to hold your phone sideways to get the best angle. When you are ready, you can email your videos through to birthday@wildearth.tv.
I love being a camera for Wild Earth. The animals coming right up close to you, especially like lions. Sometimes you get nervous, but you have to go with the flow. My favorite animal to film is the elephant because of how big it is. But when it's really up close to you, it's one animal that you would say, I really respect you.
Oh, sorry you lost us again there, everybody. We're back. The Duke is now flat, doing what he does best. Normally once he lies down like this, that is him done for the morning. And thankfully, there is a bit of cloud that has just materialized, because otherwise we would be cooking. We had to move around here to get a visual of him. Here's some African grey hornbills in the background. And I'm going to see if I can get you to get this chin spot Battis, Morgan. He's through that bush there at the back. He's going to move in a moment. You see him flickering there? It's just sort of at your eye level at the back there. Right over here. Right over here. I forgot I've got a monitor. Left. It's over there at the back. Let's see if we can get him. There he goes. There he is. Just up there. Female chin spot Battis just behind the bushes there. Right where my finger is here. There he goes. Oh, down. They're such cool little birds. A group of them is called a parliament. A parliament of Battises. And just like that, I think she's gone. Thanks, Morgan. We got movement on the screen. Maybe it's still there. That's the beautiful thing about birds, is that you're in a leopard sighting and they will materialize. I've told this story before, but I knew that my trainhead eco training at one stage had been successful when I had a group of students that were in a leopard sighting, mating leopards, and they were all looking at the Retz's helmet shrikes on the other side. That's when I knew my birding training had paid off, because at the end of the day, everybody, birding becomes a hobby, becomes a passion. It becomes something you get excited about. A lot of people, when I first talk about birding, are like, what on earth are you talking about? Birding? But it gets really exciting when you start to identify your own birds. You know, you start making lists, you start going places, you start checking off lists of birds. And you start figuring out, okay, well, I know Battises. Now I'm in the Cape. What Battis am I seeing? Well, obviously, it's probably the Cape Battis, but you only know the chin spot. Or you see a Tarraco, and you're somewhere else. You go, it looks like a Tarraco. Solara, he's a beast, isn't he? He's a big leopard. He's a really big leopard. He's about as big as they come when he was in his prime. It's hard for me to tell you how big he is now because I haven't seen a full sort of image of him yet. Tyler, I think he's just stopped actually being territorial. He's just realized, okay, well, I don't need to walk those distances and make the noises and fight. So he just gets to an age when they just realize, okay, that's for the younger boys to do. You know, he sowed his seed. He's had a number of successful cubs. And he's now sort of doing what male leopards do when they reach a certain age. They start becoming less mobile, not moving huge distances. He's still a very physical cat, and don't let anybody think he's not physical. He's still very physical. He can still do some serious damage, but it's about the willingness to do all of that effort. Being territorial requires energy, requires a lot of energy, and you know that's why people retire. They're just tired of the rat race. So my honest opinion, obviously I've only seen him the last couple times, a few days ago now. The way he's been moving, where he's been moving, he hasn't been exhibiting territorial behavior. So makes me believe he's gone into sort of a state of being non-territorial. We don't hear him calling. He used to be very vocal. We used to track him regularly and find him because he'd have very specific routes. Now he just goes from here to there. Pretty much similar sort of areas. Have you got something, Morgan? You're just looking at the beautiful clouds. Well, there are a few birds around as well. So if you do see one, feel free to zoom in. A couple fighting in this tree here that I've been trying to get my binoculars on, but it's a bit bright behind them. Okay, well, we're probably going to move on shortly from the Duke, as I don't foresee him getting up to too much now, but we'll send you to Marcus, who's enjoying a quiet moment at a watering hole.
Wow, leopards are beautiful animals. So I have arrived at that water hole I was talking about, and while on the dam wall there, I had a look with my binoculars and had a long distance visual of these lions. So we might have actually find our lions here, but they look like they're just resting on the edge of the waterway or on the northern end of this water hole. So as I mentioned earlier, they might have come in this area maybe to try and see if there might be some impalas or even maybe wildebeest bears that they might be able to disturb or even to surprise when they come down this water hole. But they didn't look like they are feeding on anything. So we're just getting closer. We'll see exactly what's happening when we get close to those lions. Not too far now, maybe about 100 meters or so in front of us. That's where those lions we saw. We at least saw 2 of them. So when we get here, we'll be able to see how many they actually are. And if maybe they do have something that they are feeding on, or they're just resting. With lions, possibilities are endless. So we'll just slowly be driving so we don't disturb them. Just approach them as slow as possible so we are sensitive towards them like that. And in return, they will be as relaxed with us. We're not too far now. So this is exact same spot where the Birmingham Pride were the other time. So while we still try and reposition for these lions, we'll send you over to Pridelands and see what they've got for us.
Good morning and welcome back to Eco Training Pridelands. As we continue our bushwalk, we've just found a female giraffe. So for those of you that have joined us for the first time that doesn't know how to separate males from females, I'm going to give you a few brief pointers. So when we firstly look at the giraffe, and generally the females are lighter in color compared to the bulls that are darker. One of the other features that we can look at is the top of those little horn-like structures on the top of the head, which is known as ossicones. They appear like little black paintbrushes compared to the males, which often has bold spots on top of the ossicones. We also notice that they're thinner necked compared to that than the bulls. And then if you're still not 100% sure, you can always look underneath the belly. In the case of a male, you'll see that the penile sheath breaks the outline of the belly. We discussed a number of strategies that animals follow this morning in terms of rumination, as well as hindgut fermentation in terms of how they break down their food and digest it. As we've been watching this giraffe before she became aware of us, she was busy grinding her teeth from side to side, which is generally an indication that they are re-chewing their food. And this is often what we'll find is that the food that goes into the first stomach, which is known as a rumen, gets regurgitated and then gets chewed a second time before it gets swallowed and passed via a process, a structure called the diverticulum, into the next stomach chamber. Some of the benefits, other than far better quality of digestion of nutrients and minerals, is that you can feed and fill up your stomach and then retreat and move into an area where it's safe away from predators, or if you encounter a predator suddenly, that you at least have a partially full stomach instead of a mouth full of food. You can also then move into the shade as the morning progresses, and you can go and digest your food in the cool rather than to be exposed to the direct heat. It seems as if she's just going to be joined by a very, very small baby that's just coming directly from her right. Oh, Yvette is coming. I haven't seen such a small baby for a very, very long time. I hope that it's going to come into the open, that we can all have a clear view of her. If not, we're going to try and reposition within a few seconds, but we're just cautious of not disturbing it. So when these guys are born, they're born approximately at a height of 1.4, 1.5 meters. And you'll notice that their body looks quite large in comparison to the head at that point when they are still so young. What I also find quite fascinating is when the female does give birth, she does so in a standing position, and that little guy will be dropped at 1.4 meters in height. When it comes to giraffe and it comes to with regards to the question of Robin has with regards to how they communicate, they do so mostly on visual communication. They've got phenomenally good eyesight. We very, very seldom actually ever hear giraffe. And the only times I've actually heard them is when they're under distress by a predator, that they will bellow. So much that many zoologists actually believe that they are mute, which is not the case. Our little giraffe is actually coming straight towards us. It's just as curious as what the mom is. So we often find that the animals will come and investigate by looking at what are the potential disturbances. As mentioned in earlier shows, this is referred to as a predator inspection. And the function of it is to rather keep your eye on the potential threat and know where it is and that it doesn't catch you off guard. Coming back to the communication and giraffes, giraffe also has a very similar looking family member that looks like a cross between a giraffe and a zebra, which we find in Central Africa, which is known as a okapi. And unlike the giraffe, they again occur in thick wooded forests and forest environments, and therefore are much more reliant on vocal communication instead of visual communication. As mentioned earlier, in terms of their effective eyesight, it's believed that the female can often maintain contact with other members over a distance of 3 kilometers, as long as there's direct line of sight. The other ways that they communicate is also by means of scent, and this is quite important for males when they are looking for females that are in estrus. We're going to enjoy watching this little guy for a little bit longer, but in the meanwhile, we're going to hand you over to Marcus.
Wow, so look at what we've got in front of us here. I thought at first, being at a dam wall, this was the lions we have been looking for, but it looks like it is not, hey? So this is just 3, of which I can confirm it's not part of the Birmingham Pride. So these 3 were seen actually might be about a week or so ago in this exact same area where they'd taken down a water bug. But they had left the area. Looks like they loved it so much that they made their way back. Oh, look at that one stretching, heading towards where the shade is. And down she goes. So these are the 2 females and that male, which looks like sub-adult lions. They don't look that old actually. And yeah, we are not sure, like there are some prides that do come into our property here. So at first we thought that they are part of that pride that comes from the Kruger that side, but we also get another update that it might also be from that another pride that comes from the north, the property that's north of our property. So you see how they're just resting there, and like these lions will know that there are some resident pride in this area, so they'll try and time their visit quite well, because right here where they are, it's the exact same spot where we saw the Birmingham Pride the other time when they spent time close to this water hole. So these lions, it's where they are at now. You might find that they do have evidence that the Birmingham Pride is now out of their way here. Because being youngsters like that, they wouldn't want to find themselves in conflict with the Birmingham Pride. The beauty of being in an area with no fences comes to life with these lions. Because much as we know, lions are territorial, so if they are here, this is someone else's territory. But because there were no impediments to them entering our property here we are. So you might find that that male is actually close to that age where he's about to get kicked out of his pride. So Lana would like to know if this is a young male. Definitely this is a young male. He still looks young. He might be maybe around about that same age with our white Birmingham male lion. So you might find that between 2 and 3 years, and you see he's got sisters to accompany him. So sometimes at a pride, when come that age when the males are about to get kicked out like that, it's not unusual to see some sisters maybe accompanying him for the time being, maybe trying to show him how he'll have to go about things And sometimes even older lionesses, you might find that they go with them just so they can show them how to do the ropes, how to hunt, because at that age, when come about 3 years or so, when he'll get kicked out of this pride, he'll still need to survive. But that being mentioned, they will have to remain under the radar, because wherever he will be, there will be some other lions operating there. So there will be some dominant males that might not take kindly to his presence. So at that time, he won't have to call or roar. He won't have to scent mark. If anything, he'll just have to try his best to survive, which is actually not an ideal time. But also for these lions, that's a more special time, because that's when they can sort of find themselves out. So if I heard the question correctly, please want to know how many times do lions feed in a week. So they will need to feed for as long as they need, or as much as they need, because that always comes boiling down to the number or the size of the species that they take down. So if it is 3 lions like this and they catch something, let's say for instance they catch an impala, that won't really go far with even with the 3 of them like this. But if they take something as big, maybe a wildebeest, that can sustain them maybe for 4 days, 5 days, depending, of course, on whether hyenas are able to steal that kill from them, or even other lions. Maybe the Birmingham Pride decides to make their way, for instance, to this part of the reserve and find that these 3 have got something that they have killed. Of course, the Birmingham Pride has got numbers, so they might try and bully these ones out of their kill. And with that in mind, these lions will need to hunt again. So that's always depends on what they have caught, when last have they fed, those sort of things. But yeah, these ones, if you look at that one walking there now, looks like they might have fed nothing big, but yeah, they don't look that hungry at all. You see how that young male's got his eyes closed, while that lioness that's licking herself now has got her eyes fixed towards the water hole. So you would like to know how often would lions mark their territory. So also with that, chances are dominant males might try and patrol their territory every night. But also it depends when, if maybe they do patrol tonight and they do scent mark, those sort of things, they will not really have to go to the exact same spot to do that. But also it will come down boiling to some weather conditions at times. Let's say, for instance, they do that scent marking and it rains. So they will most probably need to scent mark the following day. And also, much as you know that these lions do not only mark their territory by scent, so they will roar, of course they will roar come night time just to advertise their presence to intruding lions. But yeah, I think each and every night they will patrol their territory. You see that young male grooming himself there? That grooming also do play a part when it comes to getting rid of parasites. Look at the head rubbing between him and the sister. Looks like she's got an irritation of some sort. So sometimes you find that when these lions are feeding, they would Martin would like to know if it's possible for this young male here to join the Rose Coalition. No, Martin. The Rose males won't be that welcoming if they saw this young male. Chances are they'll try and kill him, because that's eliminating competition, and also they wouldn't want him with them since he was not, or he's not part of them. The only time when lions from a different pride might accommodate another lion from a different pride, it's when this male here then starts leading a nomadic life. And you find that, let's give an example with our Birmingham white male. If him and his brothers get kicked out come 3 years old or so, and then when they're leading a nomadic life and they find that this young male is also leading a nomadic life, that's when it is likely for them to accommodate him at their coalition, but not at that age where the Rose males are. So the Rose males, they just see him as competition. They'll just see another male after their females, of which they won't take lightly to that. And also, we don't really know the natal pride of these ones. So if it's just him and him only, and then come 3 years of age he gets kicked out, life won't be as easy for him, because at least if he's got some other brothers that they'll get kicked out around about the same age, then it will be much, much easier. So there they are, resting. And so for these ones, they will always be on the lookout, much as they can rest like that, because they are in a foreign land, if I can call it that, and they're well aware of all the consequences. That one looking straight at us. Sorry, have come again with that question? So, sounds like Heather would like to know if lions get some hairballs like... Yeah, Heather, they do, these lions. So that's why sometimes you will hear this sound like it's a lion coughing. And yeah, they do get hair stuck on their throat. And sometimes you'll see these lions eating grass. I'm not sure if Heather might have seen that some other time. You will see this lion eating grass. So that's their way of inducing vomiting, hoping that whatever fat stuck in their throat will get thrown up when they puke. This one right in front of us, this female, walked to the side and looked like actually that was the case, but she didn't vomit anything. Maybe from all those coughs the fat might have come out. Down she goes. It's actually quite nice to see that other lions do walk into that property knowing that the Rose males are here. So at least they do give us a bit of change. So for now, I think we'll just leave these lions here to their day while we continue bumbling, see what we get next.
In preparation for our 14th birthday, we will be lighting up a fire and heading on a special journey down memory lane. join Lauren and Steve on the 11th of April for a sentimental look through the archives.
The missing cubs have arrived!
Holy moly, everyone, this is incredible stuff.
Oh my goodness, everyone. Oh, there's two.
Who better to have as special guests than the Wild Earth co-founders Emily and Graham Wallington. They'll be answering questions about Wild Earth's fascinating journey since its launch in 2007. Following many requests, we've decided to make this event available to everyone, not just explorers. You do, however, need to be registered on the wildearth.tv website. Join us straight after the sunset drive on the 11th of April for what promises to be a remarkable evening.
So in 1998, we had this idea to go and put a live web camera on a waterhole somewhere in the Sabi Sands next to the Kruger National Park. And I approached just about every single landowner and everybody thought I was completely crazy until I met Yuri and Pippa Moorman.
We thought it was definitely a fun idea and a worthwhile thing to experiment.
And it immediately became a runaway success. And it gave people all around the world the opportunity to watch a little piece of Africa day and night. Back in 1998, it was the very early stages of the internet. And all we were able to do was to get a 30-second refreshing JPEG out of that camera. But over time, what we began to do is focus more and more on trying to develop this concept of giving people the opportunity to go on safari.
Even though we live just 500 meters up this hill, we still put the camera on to see what's happening.
Absolutely, we watch it ourselves.
My name is Taylor McCurdy and I work for Eco Training. I love hearing from all of the viewers. However, I particularly enjoy those of you who have been watching for a few years. Your questions are just so advanced and they really get me thinking. If you'd like to ask a question on Wild Earth, you need to register on our website. Once you've done that, head to the live safari page and submit your questions below the
Welcome back. As you can see, we've managed to find ourselves another watering hole. I think most of you can see the theme of our journey today. We came down here because apparently we've got a new, really relaxed female leopard that hangs around this area. I was hoping to maybe find some signs of her, but so far we've got nothing. But I just wanted to point out what a stunning watering hole this is, and I think the main feature that's sort of dominates the scene are these beautiful fever trees. Have a look, we've got a beautiful island right in the middle there. You can see that tree with a very sort of yellow bark. That's what we call a fever tree. Now, the reason behind this very yellow bark is the bark itself actually contains chlorophyll. So it helps the tree to photosynthesize and create more nutrients. Because if you have a look at those leaves behind in the back, they're very, very small. So they aren't actually able to produce enough food for the entire tree. That's why the bark itself also helps to photosynthesize. And there's a lovely sort of background on this tree, and where it got its name from. I'm sure most of you maybe have heard or you've seen on the type of fever tree tonic that they've got, that one brand name. And it's like a little bit of a joke back to how this tree that got this name. And it occurs from when the voortrekkers were going through South Africa or through Africa itself. Now you can see all these trees are surrounding this water. They're very water dependent trees, so you'll find them around watering holes, you'll find them in drainage lines, anywhere where they can access a lot of water. Now when people were trekking through Africa, you can imagine they would often set up camp on the edge of riverbeds, and it was because they had some water for their cooking and their cleaning. But they started noticing that they were getting very sick in these areas with very, very high fever. And they also noticed that whenever they camped in these areas, they found these trees as well. So they started blaming it on the tree. They called it the fever tree. But of course, it actually had nothing to do with this poor tree. It was more to do with the fact that there were a lot of mosquitoes that were breeding in the water. And of course, with mosquitoes came malaria. So a lot of the guys were getting malaria them blaming it incorrectly on this tree. So that's the little bit of a background there. I wonder if we can see, if we zoom off to the left here. Oh, and this one on the far left that's got a dead branch. It's quite an interesting feature that we've got with our fever trees as well. You can see how there's 2 branches that have actually died on this fever tree. Now we call those sacrificial limbs. I actually think there are 3 of them. So the tree's got an amazing adaptation where it can stop sending nutrients to parts of it. If that part becomes infected with a fungus or maybe wood-boring beetles get into that section, it tries to kill it off before it can actually spread to the rest of the tree. That's called a sacrificial limb. You'll see it quite often with fever trees in particular. Lovely just to hear the sounds of the bush, as you can hear a few of the bird calls. So I'm just going to keep quiet for a little while and let's just appreciate that for a moment. You can hear the rattling testiculae in the back. So what we're going to do is we're going to carry on. We're going to head up over the mountains. We've given up on our cheetah search for today. We've found no signs of them at all. They're giving us a bit of a run around. I'm sure you've noticed the incredibly long grass all over the area. So I think it's really difficult to spot them at the moment. So we're going to carry on over these mountains. We're going to send you over to Steve in Juma and see what he's managed to find.
Welcome back, everybody. We came back to follow up on our 2 lionesses after leaving Tingana. The herd of buffalo has gone straight over where they were. Fresh dung and tracks were everywhere, and we didn't have to go far to find them. Don't know where the lionesses are, though. They're probably scattered. The evidence of them tracking these buffalo at one point, there were definitely lion tracks trying to move after the buffalo when we were following that one lioness. She was following her auntie or her mother. Don't know who. But unsuccessfully. I don't think the 2 of them would have much luck in a herd of buffalo like this, but it is possible if they isolate one to get one of the little youngsters, but there's a lot of buffalo here. Well, in amongst this herd yesterday. Yeah, they are looking a little bit more relaxed. Well, yesterday we know for certain that the Nkumas had actually killed one of them after we saw them. I only found it out late in the evening. I think these animals are perpetually being hunted to a degree, so they've always got an element of being on edge to them. I think with the 2 lionesses, they would have just fended them off quite easily. Normally requires big male lion herd in a pride to assist. And look at this fellow who's about to come on the right-hand side. Yeah, that's the individual there that the lions would go for, those little youngsters. But have a look at these fellows. This guy right here is a boss. Goodness me. He is a big boy. Yes, he's getting quite old. He's having difficulty pooing. Getting it all over his bottom. He's still holding on, but he probably will form one of the Duggar boy ranks shortly. There we go, he's still pooing. definitely having a little bit of trouble. Body doesn't work as well as it gets older. Jerome, it's not that they push them out, it's that these old fellows eventually keeping up with the herd just becomes too much. So the herd essentially just leaves them. They end up being at a dam or a pan or whatever it might be, like he is now. He watches the herd move off and he just goes, oh, do you know what? I'm just going to stay right here. He gets sort of tired of the pushing and shoving that goes on in the herd. Although he's still a very big fellow, he's probably still got a chance of doing quite well. Gets to the point where they just lose interest in pushing and shoving, constantly jostling for position. And as the herd moves off, they just decide, well, I quite like this watering hole, I'm going to stay here. A little bit of attempted mating going on there close to the pan. Dominant bulls would be following the females around who are in estrus and trying to mate with them. Leads to lots of pushing and shoving and lots of aggression between the men. And the older boys just go, I've had my time. I think I might just stay here by the pool. Let the younger ones carry on. Okay, well, we're probably going to stay with our buffalo for a little bit longer. Maybe we'll even see where those two lionesses have gotten to. In the meantime, we'll send you back over to JP.
Good morning and welcome back to Eco Training Pridelands. At the moment we were tracking a buffalo towards water. We also found some fresh dung that might have indicated that he might have been here in the last hour or two. But as we came to the water's edge, we found where the track has marked where he was busy drinking. So when we look at buffalo tracks, we generally see that they are split in half. So this is typically what we refer to as a Unguli grade track, a track that is designed for fast running and to escaping from predators. These incredibly large hooves can also be used very effectively by trampling a potential predator that might get in its way. As mentioned earlier, their horns are equally effective as weapons against a potential threat such as lion. But to come back to the track, when we look at buffalo track as well, it looks and appears fairly round in appearance, and it generally will fit quite neatly into a square. We also will notice over here that there's two markings right at the back end of a track, and these are the dew claws or false hooves, which are set fairly high up, which very seldom marks in the track other when these animals are stepping into mud. If we look at buffalo, their tracks are also quite often confused with that of giraffe and another species of antelope, which is known as a Cape eland, which is also the largest antelope species in Africa. When we compare this to giraffe is much longer and will normally fit into a rectangular shape. Generally also when we do find giraffe tracks, we'll notice that there's a slight amount of raised soil towards the front part of the track. When it comes to the Cape eland, it's more similar in size to that of the buffalo, unlike the giraffe, which is much longer. There, the track appears much more narrow in appearance compared to that of the buffalo, also fitting neatly almost in a rectangular shape. In the meanwhile, we're just going to do a little silence segment and allow you to enjoy the beauty of this little dam. While we're sitting here a little bit longer, we're going to hand you over to Marcus, who is currently live in Ngala.
Welcome back to NBN Ngala, everyone. So we have left those 3 lions like we said we were gonna do earlier. We are bumbling about, and we've got some updates of these animals that you get to see. You don't really get to see a lot of here at Ngala, which I'm very excited about. So for now, I'll just keep it a secret to the viewers. But yeah, that's where we headed, try and see if we'll be able to relocate or even find those animals. And yeah, if we do, I promise it's gonna be well worth it to the viewers. So if they can just bear with me and my secret for a little while longer while we make our way towards that area. Can't really wait. So you never know, before we even get to that area, you might be surprised with some other animals, because where we are now, we're just driving, heading towards that dry riverbed, the Timbabati riverbed. So we'll drive a stretch of that riverbed, heading towards the area of our surprise. So let's see what the Timbabati River will surprise us with as soon as we get into the riverbed and then start driving along the riverbed. So you can see the Timbabati there in front of us. So from here we'll just be cutting east. So Linda wants to know what's my favorite animal to track. So Linda, I would say it's a rhino. Early hours of the morning, if you get tracks of a rhino. And the one thing about rhinos is that they sort of leave a trail that you can try and follow. So, but like with other animals, you can follow a rhino and you find that at the end of the day, you don't really succeed, because with these animals, we work on estimates. So when you get a track, you will just estimate like how fresh you think the track is. Do you think that maybe that animal might have walked in the past 30 minutes or maybe a couple of hours back? So all those sort of things will help you. So while we drive this stretch of a riverbed heading towards the area of the surprise, let's send you over to the Pride Land, see what JP has for us.
Good morning and welcome back to Eco Training Pridelands. We've just been sitting here for a short while at the edge of this waterhole, watching a number of different bird species coming in and out to drink. Some of them were some of the canary species, while the other was blue waxbills. We're just going to hope that they're going to come back. Unfortunately, they got startled by something that flew over. So quite often when it comes to drinking with birds, they have to be incredibly careful, and they normally land quite close by to the edge of the water on a branch or a twig, and then observe for any potential dangers, such as a predator that might try and ambush them at the edge of the water. And these are normally birds such as little sparrowhawks and different falcons. So for most seed-eating birds like canaries and waxbills, they are dependent on water to assist them with digesting the seeds. It's a little bit easier if you only have to eat insects, because insects actually provide their own moisture. We also find, just like with animals, that most bird species can either be water dependent or totally water independent, depending on their main diet. There's our little blue waxbills coming back. We've also got a yellow-fronted canary female that's coming in. Good morning, Zachary, and welcome to the show. And if I think of it, the first bird that I probably learnt about was most likely a Cape wagtail, which still stays one of my favorite little birds, especially because they always look so happy and pumping up their tails up and down. The second bird that I probably remember that I've learnt about was a magnificent Vero's eagle, which was previously known as a black eagle, which I often used to find flying quite close by over where I used to live. So the ones with the dark back and the blue underparts, that's the waxbills, which we discussed a few days ago when we looked at their nest. For those that were not on the show at that stage, these little birds will quite often build their nest quite close by to wasp nest, and especially in fawn vegetation where they are protected. We've also got a non-breeding plumage weaver that's coming in, the slightly larger of the yellow birds in the group. So for most of the birds, the breeding season has come to an end and they're starting to lose their bright colours. In the case of birds that normally has bright colours to attract females. We'll also notice the same with this yellow-fronted canaries that we have here and the blue waxbills, is that the females are duller in coloration. And the reason why they're duller in coloration is that they're less obvious to predators compared to the male that will take the risk to be slightly brighter to attract the attention of females. By being able to stand out during a breeding season, by being brighter coloured, will be a testimony of the success of this bird, and therefore the female will choose a male that's more successful. Some of these little birds are also now indulging in a little bit of a bathing session so that they can cool themselves down, but also loosen old preen gland oil, which they use to keep the feathers supple and in a good condition. This is quite often followed by a little bit of dust bathing or taking your bill and pulling it through the feathers to get rid of the old preen gland oil. After that they have done so, they will reapply a new layer of preen gland oil by taking the beak to the base of the tail where the preen gland is located and smearing the fresh oil onto the feathers. Some birds will also use the sun by basking directly into the sun to destroy harmful bacteria, but also to loosen the preen gland oil. Others will also use smoke. Good morning, Julia, and welcome to the show. Birds for me is always stunning, and they always make me happy. And one of the things that I do like about birding is that you can do this almost anywhere, even in your own garden, just by putting out a little bit of seed, a little bit of water. You can attract these beautiful creatures, and also by sometimes planting the right plants to attract specific species of birds to your garden. And for me, birds always bring joy to my heart. So one of the things that you will notice with most of these little seed eaters is while they're drinking, they have to take a mouthful of water and then tilt back the head. This obviously places them at far longer risk. So one of the species of birds that we do have in the area is doves, which has evolved a strategy by sipping up water directly from the pool and then drinking it without having to tilt back the head. And this reduces the amount of time that they spend at a water hole. In the meanwhile, we're going to sit and watch these little guys for a bit longer and hand you over to Marcus.
Nice to see some birds with the JP there. So I am still driving along this patch of the dry riverbed heading towards that area of the surprise that we had in store for you. So I just hope that I make it in that area in time to be able to show this to our viewers. However, so far we haven't really found anything else in this riverbed, which is also a nice thing because that will give us enough time to get to that area and actually show you what we've got in store for you. It is something, just to give our viewers a hint, it is something that you don't really get to see a lot of around here at Ngala, mainly due to the fact that we do have a high density of lions and even hyenas that will make this animal try and get away from these areas here. But yeah, like I mentioned, it will be quite nice to see that, not only for the viewers, for myself as well, because it has been a good while since I last saw one. So like I've asked from our viewers earlier, just bear with me a little bit longer and we will get into that area. I think we might be able to. It's not too far. Eric, confirm which direction are they heading? Copy that. I'm on Buffalo Flats Junction. Look out now. Thank you. Now, just bear with us a bit longer. We'll try and get there quickly. Maybe just another 5 or so minutes.
Nestled on the banks of one of the largest lakes in the Sabi Sands lies an award-winning game lodge called Chitwa Chitwa. Many of you will have been on safari here virtually with Wild Earth, but now we are offering you the chance to see it for yourself in person. Sign up to be a Wild Earth explorer before the end of April, and you and a friend could win 3 nights to this luxury lodge. In addition to the unforgettable safaris, you can unwind on the deck, relax in the pool, and even savor the various bush dining experiences. Chitwa's holistic approach to hospitality, with specific emphasis on conservation, will leave you with the very best memories of the African wild. Wild Earth Explorers, it's in your nature. Staying one step ahead is the key to survival out in the African wild. And now you can stay in front of the pack with a Wild Earth weekly newsletter. Sign up to be a Wild Earth explorer and you will get exclusive behind-the-scenes stories about your favorite guides and camera operators. Information about our upcoming plans and projects will be delivered to your inbox every week before anyone else. And you can hone your guiding skills by taking part in our Identify Me nature quizzes. Wild Earth Explorers, it's in your nature.
My name is Taylor McCurdy and I work for Eco Training. I love hearing from all of the viewers. However, I particularly enjoy those of you who have been watching for a few years. Your questions are just so advanced and they really get me thinking. If you'd like to ask a question on Wild Earth, you need to register on our website. Once you've done that, head to the live safari page and submit your questions below the live feed.
What are you looking at, man? That's its gangster face. It has the manners of a common variety vagabond. Look at it, chewing with its mouth open like that.
Welcome back to the viewers. So I've got an update that these animals are now on the move, but we have off-road for them, so I can see the other vehicle right in front of me, even though I do not really have a view of them as of yet. But yeah, and thanks to the viewers for all your patience, and I think I am about to reveal that surprise for you not so long from now. Let me just position so that you will be able to see that. Very good. Yeah. I know to most of our viewers, when they look at cheetahs like that, they think of Pinda. So I told Kim this morning to try and stay away from cheetahs because I heard this is up my sleeve. How beautiful is that? So it's just 3 animals that I saw. But I heard it was 4 of them, so you might find that the other one is not too far from where these other ones are. And I see the one is on the move, so I heard it's a mother and 3 cubs who are fairly big now. They don't really look like they're cubs, but yeah, they are still very dependent on the mom for hunting, much as they are also learning how to hunt. I think let's try and reposition for that. Mom, it looks like they are all walking that side. So we'll try and reposition and view them from another angle. Hopefully we'll get another good view of them. Isn't it exciting? How many times have our viewers looked at cheetahs from Ngala? I'm sure to some of our viewers they have seen the cheetahs at Ngala, but others have never seen them. So you can see that one that's actually scanning and looking in one direction. You see how those cubs are playing on the background there. Now I can see the third one. Yeah, leopard lava, I call it a grimoire with you. This is very, very special actually. I can't remember how many cheetahs actually I have seen at Ngala. So I think ever since I got into this property, this is my third cheetah sighting, and I mean I've been in this property for the past 14 years now. This is beautiful indeed. And you notice how they're just resting on that one shade while the mom is in that other shade and looking in all sort of directions. I know, right? I'm as excited as our viewers seeing these cheetahs here in our property. It's not everything, it's not something you get to see every day. So even to us as guys, it's equally as exciting as it is to our viewers, or even our guests that we have in camp or in our property. And you notice how they are just looking in all different directions. So of course it is hot now. They might even lie down, but with the cheetah being bottom of the food chain, they can't really afford to lie down for a very long time. So they'll always have to be alert. They'll always have to be on the lookout for other predators that maybe might come in this area. So as our viewers might know by now, there are lots of lions in this area. So are the hyenas. So these cheetahs will always have to be on the lookout for those. And I'm not sure when last they might have fed, but they will need, if like they are hungry, they will need to try and feed in a day like this, when at least these more powerful predators are not on the move. I agree with you, Marian. These cats are looking like they are in actually a good condition. So it will be quite nice to see those young cubs getting older and maybe even moving into our property, that we might get to see cheetah every day. That will be quite something special for us as well. How beautiful is that, hey? So I am hoping that these cheetahs maybe will stick around, so we'll be able to view them for the next while. See if maybe you can see how the mother is scanning from side to side in all different directions there, trying to look for maybe anything that may come disturb them, and even potentially looking for some food. And there she is moving. So that was indeed the surprise that I had for our viewers. And yeah, I would like to take this opportunity to thank all our viewers for this sunrise safari. And remember to join us also this afternoon from 3:30 all the way to 7:30. Until then, goodbye.